Hello everyone, this is Fiscal EG once again. Welcome back to my channel. Today we will be diving into a highly significant and controversial topic, a serious one at that, the case of former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte before the International Criminal Court or the ICC. Now, a lot of people have been asking me about how the ICC process works. So in this video, I will walk you through the complete step-by-step procedure from his arrest to possible conviction in a way that's clear, easy to follow, and based on the official ICC process. Let's get started. To understand how this all begins, let's start with the first step, the arrest and transfer process. Here, if Duterte is arrested under an ICC warrant, he will be transferred to the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Netherlands. After his arrival, he will be held in the ICC detention center where he will be treated according to international standards for detainees. Take note here that the ICC relies on the cooperation of the member states and international bodies like the Interpol to execute arrest warrants. Step number 2, initial appearance. Once Duterte is transferred to the ICC, the next step will be his initial appearance before the court. Here's what will happen at this stage. Duterte will be brought before a pre-trial chamber composed only of one judge. During the initial appearance, the judge will confirm Duterte's identity, inform Duterte of the charges against him, ensure that Duterte understands his rights, including his right to counsel and right to remain silent, and also his right to have an interpreter if needed. The court will also set the date for the next proceeding. Take note that here, at this stage, no evidence will be presented yet, and Duterte is not required to enter a plea at this stage. Step number 3, confirmation of charges. After the initial appearance, the court will need to decide whether the case has enough merit to proceed to trial. This brings us to the confirmation of charges. The prosecution will present evidence to the pre-trial chamber composed of 3 judges to prove that there are substantial grounds to believe that Duterte committed the alleged crimes. The pre-trial chamber will decide whether to confirm the charges, meaning the case proceeds to trial, dismiss the charges, meaning the case is dropped due to lack of evidence, or request for more evidence, meaning the prosecution may be asked to strengthen or amend the charges. The goal here is that the prosecution only needs to show substantial grounds or substantial evidence, not yet proof beyond reasonable doubt. Step 4, trial. If the charges are confirmed, the case will move to the trial phase. Now, this is where things get serious. Both the prosecution and defense will present their arguments. Now, the case will proceed before a trial chamber composed of 3 judges. The trial will proceed as follows. Opening statements, meaning the prosecution and defense will outline their cases, and then the first one to present evidence will be the prosecution. Here, the prosecution can present documents, videos, forensic evidence. It may also call witnesses who can be cross-examined by the defense. And then, after the prosecution has presented its evidence, it will now be the turn of the defense to present its evidence and witnesses and challenge the evidence of the prosecution. In the trial, the victims will also be given, meaning the alleged victims will also be given the chance to participate. Here, the victims may present their views and concerns through their legal representatives. And then after both the prosecution and the defense have presented their evidence, there will be closing arguments. The prosecution and the defense will then be given the opportunity to summarize their cases and their evidence. The goal here is that the prosecution must prove the guilt of Duterte beyond reasonable doubt in order to get a conviction. Step 5. Judgment. After both sides have presented their cases, the judges will then decide whether Duterte is guilty or not guilty. Here's how the judgment process works. After the trial chamber will issue a verdict based on the evidence. Guilty if the prosecution proves the guilt of Duterte beyond reasonable doubt, or not guilty if there is reasonable doubt or lack of sufficient evidence. The requirement here is that the decision whether guilty or not guilty must be supported by a majority vote, meaning 2 out of the 3 judges. Step 6. Sentencing. If Duterte is found guilty, the court will then move on to sentencing. Here is what the possible penalties could be. If Duterte is convicted, the judges will impose a sentence which may include imprisonment up to 30 years, or in exceptional cases, if the crimes are extremely serious, life imprisonment. The court can also impose fines, meaning monetary penalties to be imposed on Duterte. And the court can also impose reparations, meaning payments or assistance to victims through the trust fund for victims. Take note that the time that Duterte spent in the ICC detention center will be deducted from his final sentence. Step number 7. Even after sentencing, the process is not necessarily over. Duterte or the prosecution can still appeal the decision. Let me explain how the appeal process works. Duterte or the prosecution may appeal the judgment or sentence to the appeals chamber, this time composed of 5 judges. The appeals chamber may uphold the verdict, overturn the verdict if legal errors are found, modify the sentence, or order a new trial. Now, you might ask, why is this not double jeopardy? Because you might be wondering why the prosecution can still appeal a judgment of acquittal. Remember that under Philippine law, double jeopardy would prevent the prosecution from appealing an acquittal. But under Article 81 of the Rome Statute, the prosecution is allowed to appeal an acquittal or a conviction. This is part of the continuous legal process under ICC rules, not a separate case. Therefore, appealing an acquittal at the ICC does not violate Duterte's right against double jeopardy because it's still part of the same case. Step number 8. Enforcement of sentence. Finally, if Duterte is convicted and the appeal is unsuccessful, the sentence will have to be carried out. Here's how the enforcement process works. If Duterte is convicted, he will serve his sentence in a country that has agreed to accept ICC prisoners. Now, the enforcing state, meaning the state that accepts ICC prisoners, must follow ICC guidelines for detention. They must also provide humane treatment and allow regular visits from ICC officials. Examples of countries that accept ICC prisoners are Norway, Finland, and Serbia. And that is the full process of what will happen in Duterte's case before the ICC, from arrest to potential conviction and enforcement of sentence. This is a landmark case not just for the Philippines but also for international justice. Now, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on legal matters and current events. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Maraming salamat po.